Hello, everybody. My name is Ari, and you are listening to Bass Tunes on KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. I'm back in studio in person after last week was a recorded little doodad thingamabob because I saw Family Guy on Peter pouring a 4 in a 2-liter Family Guy 25th anniversary live reading. It was pretty good. I'm not talking about that today, but honestly, it'd be pretty funny if I did. But I'm not. Instead, we're going to be talking about Boards of Canada's Music Has the Right to Children, and maybe some other stuff as well. All right? Yeah. I've been meaning to talk about this album for a good bit of time. You know, when I first started doing the show, I was thinking about what should I talk about? What are the records? Because, of course, you know, we started with the albums, and every so often I like to go back on that. I was debating between just playing a clip from the album instead of doing my intro, but no, we have to make sure people remember who they're listening to. You know, but one of the albums that I sort of really got into when I first really started getting into music was Boards of Canada with Music Has the Right to Children, right? So you end up just, hold on a moment, please. There you go. Okay, I can hear myself now. I just never ended up getting around to doing it. And honestly, I don't know why I never got around to doing it, but I just never did. I guess at the time that I started the show, I wasn't really as into the record as I was back in, let's say, I don't know, high school. Maybe, yeah, probably high school was when I was really, really, really into that stuff. And every so often it'd come back up on shuffle, and every so often I still listen to it, and I'm like, this is really good. But it has been a while since... Can't hear myself in these headphones. There you go. No, there... You gotta pin it down, the audio thing, Jack. I don't know what I'm doing. 1, 2, 3. Do I twist it maybe? Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I... All right, I can literally just hold it and it'll be better. Okay, so back to what I was saying. I just never really got into it, all right? I just never really got into Boards of Canada that much, so it ended up just not... I wasn't into it at the time of when I started doing the show, so it never really came up. And, you know, by the time I was thinking about what else do I do, I thought, you know what, let's go back to this. Let's revisit it, and let's do the episode that I should have done a while ago, because it's very important to me, and especially with back in the day, but still so nowadays. Enough rambling. Let's get into the who are Boards of Canada? That's a question that you might be asking. They're a Scottish IDM intelligent dance music duo comprised of brothers, and they didn't reveal that they're brothers until like 2005, mind you. They just never said it. Michael Sanderson and Marcus Eoin Sanderson. I don't know how to pronounce that properly, but yeah. They started out originally as like a band trio making music on their own label called Music 70 with a limited distribution and budget. Basically, it was for themselves, for family, and friends. I don't know if they really wanted to do music as like a full-time thing or anything, but they started a music collective, which I don't think I have on here, it's called Hexagon, which is basically just like a group of them and their friends, I guess, and some of them who were originally on one of them was originally on like the trio version of Boards of Canada, but that's besides the point. Excuse me very much. Their first known releases were Catalog 3 in 1987 and Acid Memories in 1989. And their first EP also released on the Twoism on the Music 70 label, but also now released on whatever their current label is, Warp. And you could check it out on streaming. It's called Twoism, and that was released in 1995. And then BOC Maxima in 1996, which was notable because it was a full-length record. And a lot of it ended up getting reused on the album that we're going to be talking about, Music Has the Right to Children. Also, in 1996, the High Scores EP was released. This was what got them signed to a record label. It was sort of like their first full official EP, whatever. So they shipped it out to a lot of different labels, which got them signed to Scum Records. And additionally, Warp Records, and you might know Warp Records, very eclectic label. I think Broadcast and Aphex Twin were on there, so you know all the RAM delights were on Warp Records, and they make some pretty cool stuff. I don't think it was Björk on Warp, maybe? I don't think so. Anyways, they wanted to sign them as well, so as a compromise, Music Has the Right to Children was released on both labels. And in fact, this was sort of also the day where American record companies would have to release them. Let's say that there's I don't know if it's still the case nowadays. We'll say there's a British album. A separate American label would have to release the record. So in this case, Matador Records actually released Music Has the Right to Children in the United States, not Warp or Scum or both. But I believe the vinyl version I have is the UK version, and you can tell by the lack of the last track is something. There's an extra track at the end of the American one. Anyways, their debut album was Music Has the Right to Children and was released on Scum/Warp Records in 1998. Multiple EPs and 3 studio albums would follow. GeoGaddy in 2002, The Campfire Headface in, I believe, 2005, and Tomorrow's Harvest in 2013. And they're all pretty good. I think after this review, I can go ahead and get into some of the later stuff and talk about it a bit. I'm not going to do background music. I haven't done that in a long time. I want to make sure people can actually hear this. Copyrights. Anyways, this is a crazy album. It's strange. That's probably the best word to describe it. I think if we take a sentence to describe Boards of Canada, and it's not a super fleshed out one, mind you, Boards of Canada utilizes nostalgia and skews it in a manner that appears more uneasy and frightening and strange. Maybe less so frightening. It depends on what record you're listening to. But it's sort of hazy. It's a lucid dream. It's sort of an attempt to evoke an emotional and nostalgic response from the listener. And this is done through a variety of factors. Another word to describe it, or a word to describe it, is pastoral. The English Scotland countrysides, these sort of green pastures and sort of sprawling fields is what you can imagine when listening to Boards of Canada. I actually did, and I'll get into this later, that's one of the most impactful memories was me listening to this on an early morning when I went to go visit London for the first time as a human being who could actually have a conscious experience. I might have done it when I was a baby, I don't know. And I think the name came from the band's name or the duo's name. We're interested in I think it was the Board of Canada, the educational tapes or some tapes by the Board of Canada. I have to look at that again. And that's where the name came from. And the name Music Has the Right to Children was sort of a way to say that we want to evoke something in the listener or something like that. They said in an interview. Anyways, old synthesizers, sharp and crunchy drum machines, numerous samples from old media, and the real-life sounds of nature outside of their studio when a window was left open during the recording of the song Rue the Whirl create a sonic landscape not seen on many albums. If you were to hear this record without looking into their prior work, and even if you look into it, that you might come away from it feeling like this music came out of the sky as their debut record. It's fleshed out and tangible, a fully formed concept, a sort of small area of focus, evoking feelings of childlike curiosity, wonder, and mystery. And it resonates to me, in my opinion, with basically anybody who hears it, and it means something different to each of them. Now, the strange thing is, I bet you, and you can probably bet yourself, that I don't really feel as much resonance as listeners back then did. I feel like the best target audience would be like 70s, 80s, people who grew up in that era, their childhood, maybe in the UK, probably in the UK as well. That sort of time period is, I assume, where a lot of this comes from. It's weirdly introspective, science. It's like a strange mix of I'm saying too much, but I can't really put the words to it. Let's see here. Feels like a old computer graphics, science textbooks when you're a kid. Late nights, fog, cold mornings. That's sort of the atmosphere I kind of get from this record. And anyone else who listens to it can have something very different, although I think it kind of ends up having a similar vibe for a lot of people. And I wouldn't really describe this record as something similar to much that came before it. But there are some elements that I could point to that come from others, and the one that I wrote down, there's some trip-hop feel on tracks like Turquoise, Hexagon, Sun. A bit of a dubby. And the thing I could also mention is ambient. It feels ambient. All right? It feels like it's not as ambient and like quiet all the time. So it can't just be total like that. It'll shake you sometimes with harder percussion and things like that. But then other times it'll be very calm and soothing. But it's not as danceable or as rhythmically driven as, or as sort of electric as other EDM. So it kind of just sits in its own little corner and stares at the wall and stares at a landscape and thinks about their childhood. Positively and negatively, mind you. The album shifts from small interludes to long-form tracks that start small and build up a bit. The long tracks kind of stay in one headspace for the entire duration with some additions. I think some of their later songs would do more with the start quiet and start adding elements on top and on top until it's a giant earful until it's over. Earful in a good way, mind you. This does have a couple of exceptions with the build-up thing. And for this reason, it seems that a lot of people might end up liking the shorter interludes than the long songs, and they end up being more quiet, contemplative, beautiful. And the thing is of note is that these long songs are also repetitive, right? Now, of course, I think they're intentionally repetitive, right? They're intentionally very over and over again, sort of like you're going in a loop, very mathematical sounds kind of pretentious, but, you know, they always like to sneak in hidden messages, backmasking. They did this especially with Gio Gaddy, which ends up being, people were like, they're trying to sneak like satanic messages into it, but sort of like that general atmosphere. I think if you like did like a spectrogram, would say 666 or a pentagram or something like that. That kind of stuff. That kind of, you know, sacrilege identity. But Gio Gaddy's another one, right? Yeah, my biggest memory of this record was definitely listening to this in London, all right? It was around, I believe, 2018. I had gone to London before as a child, and I don't travel, obviously. No, I travel a decent bit. That's stupid for me not to say. I haven't gone, like, I don't know. It took me a while. Anyways, I went to London for the first time. It was cool. But I remember one day, I think it was one of the first days we got there, I was very jet lagged. And obviously, jet lagged means I woke up super early because I can't sleep because my brain still thinks I'm in Pacific Standard Time in California when I'm actually in, Greenwich Mean Time or something like that. I think that's what London uses. Anyways, yeah, I wake up and my mom and I are like, hey, they're like, let's just go for a walk and see what's up. Unfortunately, basically nothing was open because it was like 5 a.m. and the day had slowly started to creep in. But I put the record on. I was like, I'm going to listen to the entire record. Wildlife Analysis comes on, and it just goes from there. And speaking of Wildlife Analysis, so I'll play that as a little backdrop, you know. So you're just walking around in the vistas and the views. And most of it is just like suburbia, right? Old British flats. But then you get to certain areas. You walk a bit. You see some shops. Everything's closed up. There's basically no verticality. It's all very flat land. And then you walk over to one of the outdoor tube stations at the underground, and it's absolutely, like, gorgeous, mind you. This was around the summertime, so it was kind of hot, but very pretty. Bright sun, green everything. And it's funny because I didn't really think of Boards of Canada like that. But I guess the sort of hazy early morning is the best sort of descriptor. It feels like you're, I don't know, maybe not numb, but just sort of like not fully there. It's sleepy. I like that sort of sleepy vibe. Because I feel like when you're I don't know, when you get sleepy, everything just kind of blends together in a kind of nice haze. You know what I mean? And it's funny too, because like I'm of the mind where, you know, I wouldn't call myself straight edge, but I don't partake in much stuff, and I'm like, man, I could just get sleep deprived, go to parties, and just act the same way. Like on around 6 days ago, on that glorious day for some of you listeners out there, that's what I did. I woke up. I ended up waking up at like 5:30 in the morning, and by the time it was really late at night, I stumbled into some gathering of people that I knew. my friends thought I was not sober. When I was sober. I was just entirely sleep deprived. So, hey, you know what? Obviously, that's very bad for your health. Don't intentionally sleep deprive yourself. I didn't do that. I didn't enjoy that. It was really late at night. Anyways, it's a cool record. I don't know what else to say about it. It just evokes so many cool feelings in a lot of people. And if you've heard this album, I would like you to call in just so we can talk about it, because I wonder what this album means to you. We do have a phone line, which is 949-824-5824. I almost read out my own phone number there. I had to stop myself. That's funny. Anyways, we can turn the music down. But yeah, if you've heard this album or any other album recently, you want to talk about it, call in. If not, we can keep talking about Boards of Canada, right? I think an interesting thing to note is that people say, and I would agree, that childhood, the nostalgia, it's not super like rose-tinted glasses type of thing. It's a little darker. It kind of encompasses a lot of the emotions and feelings and worries. Because the thing is, when you're a child, it's not all sunshine and roses. Things scare you because you don't know the world. The world is so big and imposing, and you don't know everything. And your parents are like the only guide, right? I read a comment somewhere, and I do this a lot. I should make my own opinions, but hey. That said that music has the right to children is like getting lost at the mall with your mom and then finding her at the end. Whereas GeoGaddy is like being picked up by a man in a white van. That kind of being kidnapped. So yeah, GeoGaddy is a lot darker, but that's besides the point. There's literally a song on there called Beware the Friendly Stranger. And Salad Fingers used it. The Salad Fingers online video series used songs from GeoGaddy. Very cool. But I do feel like Boards, I don't know how much of an influence it's had, but I feel like it has had a lot of influence on music in like that sort of alternative IDM landscape. And I don't know if I've talked about IDM, but I still think it's kind of a dumb subgenre. And if I've talked about this topic before, I really don't think I have, but I kept like second guessing myself because I was wondering, have I talked about Boards of Canada before? Have I talked about them before? Because it feels so much like I should have, but I guess I haven't, right? So anyways, IDM is a strange name, and I still don't get the name, but I feel like it's the best way to do it because it's called intelligent dance music. So obviously anybody and their mother can think, oh, does that mean that intelligent dance music is for smart people? Oh, it's smart people music. That's not smart, right? Because that's pretentious. And in my opinion, truly intelligent people, truly people who are something, don't have to say that they are, they show it. If you're a rich man, you don't have to flaunt your wealth. You carry yourself and you can just sort of give off that aura of, oh, this guy got money. If you're confident, they talk about fake it till you make it, but at the same time, you can't truly fake it. You have to just be that way. People can sniff that out subconsciously. Well, I can't. I'm not that good at that. But a lot of people can do that, and it's interesting. That's off topic from Boards of Canada, isn't it? Yes, it is. I don't really know about their latter records. I think Tomorrow's Harvest is a bit of a strange one. Looks like we got a caller. Very cool. I will be right back. Let's talk to the caller. And we're back with Bass Tunes on KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. Unfortunately, that caller did not want to chat on the air, but we got ourselves a new listener. So thank you very much to whoever that was. I really appreciated that. That was actually really sweet. Shout out to all of our listeners on the air. All right. Listen, if you want to talk about the album or any music, you can call into the station. But that's besides the point. I should have been, you got to talk more. Anyways. What else is worth noting about Music Has the Right to Children? Let's just look at some other reviews and see what they say. You know how we do it. The details. I totally forgot about that. They're very good at layering a bunch of stuff on top of each other and absolutely just making a cake of, I'm just saying stupid words, making just a very full sound. one that has all kinds of things going on at once and leading to a very sort of just impactful sound, right? It sounds beautiful. It sounds intense. It's bassy. It's frightening. It's great in all regards. But yeah, childhood is one thing. But yeah, it's as we remember it. There's shades of darkness, as this other viewer says, pitchfork.com. Just taking a look here. Yeah, there you go. And here's a good line about it that I agree with. Should make more noise myself. The warbly pitch and warped voices mirrored the anxiety that came with the carefree days of being a kid and living subjugated to others. They tapped into the collective unconscious of those who grew up in the English-speaking West and were talented enough to translate it. Paraphrasing, mind you. But that is a good descriptor of what this record is, right? All the little things that you consumed as a kid, that you saw, all the places and feelings, you can sort of just take this music and listen to it and have it evoke those same feelings, memories, places, people, whatever. Synesthesia is kind of a thing, right? Is that some sort of disorder? It's not a disorder, is it? What is it? Ooh, it is a perceptual phenomenon in which stimulation of one sensory or cognitive pathway leads to involuntary experiences in a second sensory or cognitive pathway. It's the idea, like, I guess what I'm using in this context is the idea of you hear music and you can see colors, for example. You associate them in your brain to a large degree. And I'm not saying that if you listen to this record, it will turn you into somebody who has a neurological phenomenon that not every human being has. No, absolutely not. But it does, to me, evoke a lot of things. And not every record does that. Some of them are just good music. Some of them are just heavy. A lot of the heavy metal I've been listening to hasn't really had that sort of impactfulness. That sort of impact. Impactfulness is not a word. It might be a word. But it doesn't have the same impact as something like this. But not a lot of stuff does have the same amount of impact as something like this does. In my opinion, at the very least. Let's go over the track, shall we? So, I'm going to go over some of my favorite tracks on this record. The long tracks are good. People like the short ones more. But to me, I either listen to the long ones by themselves, or I end up just listening to it all as a whole, a collective whole, while I'm doing something else. You can, in my opinion, you can sort of listen to it in both ways. You can either put it on all in one sitting. Let's say you have a vinyl record, or just put it on streaming or whatever you're listening to on a CD, if anybody has a CD anymore. CDs are kind of back in style now, but I digress. Or you can just sort of, I have a playlist, I just put some of them on, it comes on shuffle, the more standalone tracks, and I'm like, ooh, this is beautiful. Beautiful. Right? So that's sort of the thing. And you did actually hear when I was music playing on the phone, you did hear, I think we got up to the first two tracks, Wildlife Analysis, An Eagle in Your Mind. Did I get to Telephasic Workshop? I might have. I think we got to the end of The Color of the Fire, maybe. Anyways, you heard the first couple songs right there. That wasn't just any old music. That was the first two songs, maybe 3 or 4. I don't recall. Some of these are pretty long. An Eagle in Your Mind, the first actual track, is 6.5 minutes. The longest song on this album, which is the American version, mind you, almost 4 seconds below 8 minutes long, and that's Happy Cycling. One of my favorites, actually, even if it's one of the ones that's sort of it kind of takes a while to get going, but I really like it. Anyways, in terms of the songs that are the best known, obviously Roy G. Biv. It's a very nice one, in my opinion, because it's short, it's sweet, it has a very recognizable melody, a bunch of different, just sort of a bunch of different little melodies and things come into play and come out of play. There's this weird sample of a kid saying lake or something. I think he's saying lake. I don't know. Some child. That sort of thing. Aquarius is a strange one, where it's just like it's speak and spell, some kid's educational tape, a woman counting a woman counting a lot of things, and then one of them is 60-10, which Boards of Canada said 60-10. Also, the album cover I haven't talked about yet. I didn't write this down. I did write some stuff down for this one, as you can tell. And I'm not writing anything down now, as you can tell. But the album cover is a very... If you look at the cover, if you look it up right now, literally, if you're not driving, and if you're able to, go look up the album cover to Music Has the Right to Children right now, if you didn't see the post on the Instagram. Which, we'll talk more about the album cover after this. Because I said Instagram, we have to plug the Instagram. We also have to let you know that the views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of KUCI, its management, or the UC Board of Regents. This is Bass Tunes on KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine. I'm Ari. Okay. You can check me out on Instagram at BASEDTUNESKUCI on Instagram. And also, mind y'all, we are running a helmet giveaway. You might have heard it on the last program. You definitely heard it. You probably heard my voice, too, because I was the one who recorded that. Yeah. We're running a giveaway from Helmet, and it's ending. It is ending in 2 days. It's ending on Sunday. So if you want to get a pair of tickets to go see Helmet at the Observatory OC on the 30th, yes, April 30th, 2024 at the Observatory OC, here's what you do. You go to our Instagram, that's KUCIFM. You follow us. And then you comment, tagging a friend under the post. There's a post that's announcing the giveaway. Or when a host announces it, you can call into the station. And I might take a call or two. Why not? So if you're interested in that helmet giveaway, you can call into the station, but odds might differ if I pick it up from the middle of talk or something. But also, obviously, if you'd like to talk about anything, what is an album that's been important to you recently, that you like, heard recently, or if you've heard Boards of Canada, anything, or similar things like Aphex, electronic, whatever, you can call our station line at 949-824-5824. That is 949-824-5824. All right, back to our program. The album cover is really cool. It's a green hazy, it's a bluish-green filtered photo of a family in some sort of landscape. Maybe it is Canada. I'm not sure. It's a grainy photo. And the interesting thing, of course, is the fact that all the people's faces that are visible are just sort of grayed out. There is no face. It's just lifeless. So even this cover really gets you going in terms of the vibe of the record, the feel of it. It's strange. It's alien almost. It's uneasy, but it's like a distant memory. That's sort of how I get it. And this sort of sharp bluish green, very cooled colors. It's funny because some people said, I looked at other reviews, obviously, they say that it's warm. I don't know. I do see this record as fairly cold sounding. Not all of it, mind you, but a lot of it does feel very cold. It feels very worn. It feels very distant and fuzzy. Sometimes warm and fuzzy, but usually kind of cold and still fuzzy memory-wise, in my opinion at least. Other tracks that I like. Turquoise Hexagon Sun, of course, that one's the trip-hop sounding one. It kind of just stays in the same spot for the entirety of the time. 6010, that one is probably the one with a crazy sort of thumping drum line with basically nothing in terms of synth melody, just then boom boom boom. I can just play it actually. Hear this. This is what I'm talking about. You literally just hear a synthesizer making some things, then another one comes in, and then of course more builds up. But then there's just these thumping drums, absolutely banging drum beat right there. And that weird vocal sample, that weird that's actually, I believe, Earth, Wind, and Fire being sampled, if I am correct on my analysis. You can look up all the crazy different references and samples that they put into these records. Not just this one, mind you, but especially GeoGaddy. That's the one that they really packed to the brim full of, just full of weird subliminal messages and backmasking and samples and things that you'd really have to listen to intently. And it was intentional. They wanted to create a challenge for the listeners, and they wanted to, I think they kind of just wanted to scare the listeners, to be honest with you. I think that's actually part of what they said, especially for GeoGaddy. It's like, we wanted to scare the listeners. And I would say the GeoGaddy is scary. Feels like a bad experience. It just feels like you're just in a bad headspace, if you know what I mean. Like you're just in a really bad headspace, and that one's a lot more frightening. That one leans fully into the frightening realm. Whereas their next album, The Campfire Headface, goes interesting, where they add a guitar. It feels like the songs are a bit stripped back, but they go more folkish. Because I think what people noticed about Boards of Canada was the fact that their music was very folky. It gives old-time country, kind of, not like American country, but like the English pastors, the countryside, the shepherds, oh, I'm by me, mate, you gonna get me a chippy, yeah? Yeah, I'm gonna need a chippy, a little pea bomb, little smack bomb pea wet. Anyways, yeah. Lovely content here, folks. Yeah. But they lean into that more with the guitar, acoustic guitar. I would say simpler sounds, a bit brighter. Like, I would say that you could associate them with a season, all the three records. And then Tomorrow's Harvest is kind of a nothing. Not a nothing, but I think it's entirely different from the rest of them, so we'll touch that on later. But I think Music of the Right to Children could be, you could see it as sort of a spring, early spring, late winter. It definitely feels cold. GeoGaddy is kind of a fall. I would say fall, mostly. Well, the cover art is I believe it's a man standing spread eagle next to a tree, put through a kaleidoscope and then filtered into a sort of spectral red and yellow. But I don't even know if I could call it fall, winter, spring. It's just scary evil. Ooh. But the Campfire Headface is definitely, as the name suggests, a summertime record. It's the one that I have in my summertime music playlist. Sort of a softer sunset, sleepy, hot morning kind of thing. And the other thing that's cool about this music, like a lot of EDM, IDM, is that it's actually pretty good work music. It's very repetitive but very stimulating. It's not boring. It's always entertaining. It's always interesting, but it is repetitive. Now, keep in mind, you could have a totally different opinion on this than me, so I highly suggest you go check this one out yourself. All right? Also, I just think it sounds really nice. Analog. I don't know if it was actually recorded to full tape. And, this could come out at any time. There's not much here that really screams, this is 1998. And that's the cool thing. I think they're timeless in their own regard because they're just doing their own thing. They're off in their little corner making their weird little music and just doing the same thing. And that's a criticism that people have had of the group, is that they've generally sort of stayed in the same spot. I don't necessarily consider that a bad thing. I think they sort of take a certain set of sounds and try to explore a different sort of emotion or feeling with the three albums and sort of just try to keep more of that headspace and keep going. Campfire Headface, I think, did innovate in terms of, it definitely feels more accessible. Is it their biggest song? Oh, I thought it would be their biggest song. No, Roy G. Biv is. I thought Dave and Cowboy would be, because that one was huge. They're shorter, too. The songs are they shorter generally? I don't know. In terms of emotional resonance, though, Campfire Headface has, like, the saddest song ever, which is Farewell Fire. That one is, it's literally just a sad droning, like, synth line that just gets really, really, really quiet and then gets up and just fades away forever. Like, it's scary. It's sad. It's like death. It's horrendous. And it's nothing. That's the cool thing about this record. That it doesn't make you feel stuff, and you wouldn't think you do. Also, Olsen. Gotta listen to Olsen. That's a really good one for Music Guys Right to Children. And then on GeoGaddy, they do Over the Horizon Radar, which is like that again, which is really good. And there's some harsher, more uneasy tracks before. Oh no, wait, no, I'm wrong here. Open the Light is the one that's like the last. The second to last song on both of these records are kind of sort of palate cleansers after some really like scary stuff. Well, maybe not scary, but uneasy and unnerving to an extent. The most unnerving stuff generally would come in those ones, And then there would be a sort of low-key, quiet synth, whatever, beautiful thing. Open the Light is that one on Music Goes There with Children. Over the Horizon Radar is that on Geogadi, which I think is way better. Not way better, but you know. And the other thing of note is that the last song, if you get the record, is not Happy Cycling. It's actually One Very Important Thought. And this one is really strange because it ends up just being a voice, and it's basically the one and only time that anyone speaks aside from like vocal samples or sings, or there's no singing. This is the one time, it's the only song really with lyrics. Now that the show is over and we have jointly exercised our constitutional rights, we would like to leave you with one very important thought. Sometime in the future, you may have the opportunity to serve as a juror in a so-called case or a so-called obscenity case. It would be wise to remember that the same people who would stop you from listening to Boards of Canada may be back next year to complain about a book or even a TV program. If you could be told of what you can see or read, then it follows that you can be told what to say or think. Defend your constitutionally protected rights. No one else will do it for you. Thank you. I still don't really know why this is here, to be honest with you. Like, it's fair. Good message, you know. Don't let people take away the right to say stuff, right? The show. But also, like, is Boards of Canada really transgressive in a form of art? Maybe with Geogadi people, maybe the weird event, you know, people will be like, oh, it's demonic or whatever. But I don't know if I could really say that for this one. So it's kind of an odd thing. It's like, I don't know. Like if I listen to Tom McDonald and I heard that, then maybe I'd get the same picture. But I don't know about this one personally, at the very least, you know? At the very least, right? I mean, let's see if there's any information on that one, because I'm not actually certain. There's a whole wiki, balkpages.org, comments. 2 versions. Oh, it's a sample. Okay. Okay. The earlier version on Bach Maxima contains a vocal sample from the conclusion of a 1982 adult film titled A Brief Affair, altered by a flanger effect. For the later version on the actual record, the text was re-recorded and altered, adding reference to Boards of Canada, so it's a sample. And this is at the end of an adult film. It's interesting though. You know? Yeah. Let's look at Bach Maxima and see what songs are on here that are the same. Here we go. Limited to 50 copies, and it's a lot of tracks. Okay, Wildlife Analysis on the record. Roy G. Biv on the record. Turquoise Hexagon Sun. 69er? Is that the same as 6010? No, it's not. Okay. Twoism's pretty cool too. Yeah, Everything You Do Is a Balloon, June Knife. A lot of the songs are basically on some of their records on these ones, except for 4 of them. It was on, I guess, a cassette and a CDR. Oh, it's basically, yeah, just a burnt CD. That's pretty cool. A studio quality one, mind you. But yeah, it's pretty sweet. I do want to end up leaving you guys with one of the songs. I think I'm going to go with Happy Cycling, so I'm going to leave y'all with that one. So we're probably going to cut this one early. But at the same time, hey, you know, we're chilling. Yeah. I'm a big fan. For Tomorrow's Harvest, I would say that it goes into a very strange era. It goes into like 80s synth, more like 80s horror film, sci-fi synthwave kind of stuff, which is a strange direction to go after going basically more organic with the last record. I don't know why they chose to do it, and I think it's commonly regarded as the weakest of the 4, and that was released in 2013. They haven't ended up releasing anything, I think, maybe a remix or something, but they haven't put out an album since. So I really hope that at some point they come back, because it has been more than a decade. Apparently they've been recording it intermittently, that one, until 2012, from 2005. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's more darker and decay. He says crafting the tunes into a specific style and time period we want to reference was a challenging aspect. There's a deliberate VHS video nasty element throughout the record, and video nasty is a British term about sort of low budget horror and exploitation films. We would probably call them like B movies or exploitation films in America. Yeah, like John Carpenter was an influence in all these different ones. People think that anticipates the duo. Let's see here. Yeah, it's stuff like the end of the world, post-apocalyptic, climate change. It's pretty dark stuff. I don't love it. I did like. Was it the first track? I did like "Reach for the Dead," the single. That one was pretty good. Oh yeah, the other stuff we can talk about. Yeah, Trans Canada Highway came out in 2006 after the Campfire Head phase. That one also was that one had Dave and Cowboy, but I think I recall the song specifically Left Side Drive being really good. Oh, here we go. Yeah, we're saying about we usually imagine our music to have a visual element when we're writing it. And yeah, they're talking, and for Campfire, we're talking about a man losing his mind at campfire with psychedelics because they talk. I guess that sort of stuff did have a bit of a big influence on the band, or at least on the music. And you could say that. I'm not going to touch too deeply on that, but I would generally say that. Yeah, you could make a good argument for that. Let's see. Actually, they were fairly vague, but they're not that vague. They're giving some good details on how they see the record. All right, let's give you some examples. For GeoGaddy, it's a record of some sort of trial by fire, claustrophobic, twisting journey that takes you into some pretty dark experiences before you reach the open air again, which is where I believe it ends. The last track is literally just silence. Is it a 2 LP? It might be a 3 LP, and the last side is just a weird symbol engraved on it, and the record and the last side of the LP there's no grooves in it at all because it's literally just silence. 9/11 had a big impact on it and made it a lot darker compared to Square Pusher. Oh, In a Beautiful Place Out in the Country. Yes. Kid for Today. Oh, that one is lovely. That one is absolutely magical. I might have to go with that one. It's just a little 4-track EP. It's beautiful. But yeah, they really did only put out a few EPs. I thought it was more than it actually was, which is pretty cool because I was actually right. We can turn that up a bit. All right. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I don't know. Boards of Canada is pretty sweet. I don't know what else to say to you. Boards of Canada is pretty cool, and you should go check out Music Has the Right to Children. And you should also check me out on Instagram. That's BASEDTUNESKUCI on Instagram, right? And bassstory.com because I'm really cool like that. And helmet giveaway. And stay tuned for Funny FM in about 12 minutes. Yeah. But I think that'll be it. I'm not certain what next week's topic will be. I wasn't certain what this week's topic would be. I haven't been certain about what the topic will be for the show before pretty close to the time I have to do it. But this time I sat down and I took some notes and it felt better. I switched to a new note-taking software called Obsidian, which is pretty cool. I don't know. I like the way it works. I might just use that more. So yeah, I think that'll be it for today's program. Let me go ahead and pull up the Boards of Canada stuff. Or do I do Kid for Today? That's a really hard question. What song do I want to pick from this record? Because I haven't played a full song from a record in a little while. I want to pick one that's impactful. I want to pick one that's notable, but you might not have heard before. But is from the record. Okay, I think I'm going to go with Happy Cycling because I like that one. I feel like not that many people like this one. Yeah, we're going to go with Happy Cycling by Boards of Canada. This is from Music Has the Right to Children. So that'll be it for today's program. Enjoy Happy Cycling. I've been Ari. This has been Bass Tunes. Stay based, everybody. And I've been talking kind of quietly, but don't think I'm not going to go hard. All right, partner. Keep on rolling, baby. You know what time it is. It's Red Thirst Friday! Now enjoy. Boards of Canada, happy cycling. Music has the right to children.